announces to XCOM that he's going to make up his mind by Monday evening. He's going to address the nation. He's going to tell the nation about the situation in Cuba and give them his course of action. So he asked Ted Sorensen to do what? Prepare what? His speech. One speech or two. One with each scenario. A speech to explain the use of the naval blockade, and also a speech to explain airstrikes followed by invasion. What does that tell you? That tells you that the president still hasn't made up his mind what he's going to do, because he has Sorensen write two speeches. One with the use of a naval blockade, and one with the use of airstrikes followed by invasion. So, the president concluded the meeting. He thanked the committee for all their advice. Okay? Now, this is kind of interesting. We really want to keep this secret. So there's a dinner party that night. Okay? So the night of Saturday, October 20th, there's a dinner party. And Kenneth O'Donnell is there, and Adlai Stevenson is there. And Adlai goes up to Kenneth O'Donnell and kind of says, well, I certainly showed my colors today, or something to that effect. And then he kind of hinted to O'Donnell. He says, by the way, I got to give you a little bit of a tip. Rumor is that the Washington Times is going to run a story in tomorrow morning's paper about troop movements in Florida and rumors of an invasion in Cuba. So somebody leaked something, right? And Adlai Stevenson heard through the grapevine that the biggest paper in Washington, the Washington Times, was scheduled to run a story the next morning about troop movements in Florida and rumors of an invasion of Cuba. That was already out there, and the press was going to run it the next day. Exactly what they did not want. So Adlai Stevenson was the type of guy that could keep his ear to the ground, and he did that. He was a very wise politician, and he basically informs O'Donnell, by the way, Kenny, I heard the Washington Times is going to run a story in tomorrow's paper about troop movements in Florida and rumors of an invasion in Cuba. Now, that is not good. Especially before it comes out before what? Kennedy's speech Monday night. That is exactly what they do not want. So O'Donnell quickly gets on the phone and calls President Kennedy. They discuss the dangers of something came out in the press before his speech Monday night. So what do you think the president does? No?
He does it that night?
No. Who's he calling the paper? Who's he going to call? Who's the top of the line of the paper? Not the editor, the publisher. So he calls Orville Dreyfus, who's on your ID sheet, the publisher of the Washington Times. So because he's very concerned, President Kennedy calls Orville Dreyfus, who is publisher of the Washington Times. And he asks him what? Not to run the story. He said, don't run the story till after I get... He told him, I'm going to give a speech about this Monday night. Don't run anything till after my speech. Don't do it. Now, what do you think Dreyfus is? You guys are in journalism class. Glenn, you're in this thing too, and who else is in it? Carmen and Alex. If you got a hot story, what do you want to do? Do you want to hold that story? I mean, what's the paper's job? I'll tell you an example. We put a new attendance policy in at Minico High School when I was 29 years old. I was assistant principal. We put it same policy we have here, 10-day policy. Okay? And at the end of the first semester, 4% of the 800 kids that went to Minico High School lost credit. Is that very many?
Yeah.
4% of 800?
No.
Not very much. So guess what the headlines on the paper, the Minidoka County Press, was the next day? Minico High School students lose credit. 4% of the kids lost credit. But what did it do for the newspaper? I bet when people saw that on the front page, what did they do? They went and bought a paper, didn't they? Wanted to read about that 4%. Well, Dreyfus is no different. And kind of behind the edges, Dreyfus really hesitated because they had a story about the Bay of Pigs in advance of that deal and kept it quiet. And Dreyfus said it was the biggest mistake he ever made. That he should have broke that story in the Bay of Pigs because he had that information prior to the Bay of Pigs and he didn't run it. And he got a lot of crap for it. And he said to the president, he said, you know, I've regretted not running that story in the Bay of Pigs since the day it happens. I just don't think I can hold this story. He says, what am I going to tell my reporters that works so doggone hard to get the story? And Kennedy's response was, quote, tell them they'll be saving lives, including their own. Because what's he worried about if it comes out? We lose first strike capability. Russia gets the idea that we're going to attack Cuba. What do? They launch some missiles. We launch some missiles. I mean, it could lead to nuclear holocaust. So anyway, Kennedy calls Orville Dreyfus, publisher of the Washington Times. He discusses with Dreyfus to hold the story till after his speech Monday night. Dreyfus initially hesitated because he said that he held a similar story just before the Bay of Pigs and he's regretted it ever since. He also asked Kennedy, what am I supposed to tell these reporters that have worked so doggone hard on this particular thing? And he said, tell them they'll be saving lives, including their own. Okay, so what's he going to do Sunday, October 21st? And most of the day, Monday, October 22nd. What's Kennedy going to be doing? Thinking. What am I going to do? Okay? All right. Leave everything here, take a pen or pencil, and head to the Commons. You shouldn't have any trouble on this if you've been paying attention. All I'm trying to do is evaluate how much you're paying attention, how much you're getting. And if I correct these and you did bad, then I got to redo some things. So head on down. Pen or pencil's all you need. Pen or pencil. Two to a table just like a test.
Is that your coffee cup?
Well, in line.
Or is?
I think Taylor's.